Hi guys, so as the title of the video says, I'm going to turn these sprues into some modular Necromunda terrain. Obviously it can be used for any kind of like wargaming games or any sort of tabletop games as well, to be honest. So I've taken these 3 sprues and basically rather than cutting them up, I'm just going to cut off the bottom bits, basically all the nibbly knobbly bits at the bottom, just so these lay nice and flat. Obviously all these bits that I am cutting off I will put to one side as they will be used to make the ooey gooey spruey stuff later. So yeah, once they're all trimmed and they do lay flat, I can put them down on the greaseproof paper, and like I've done in a few other videos, I've made these panels by basically squirting out some hot glue gun. And this obviously fills in these little gaps really nicely, and then it goes on to obviously dry really quick. So that's what I was originally going to do here, and as you can see, that is kind of what I started off by doing. But then I like to obviously read all the comments you guys leave on all my videos, and someone sort of mentioned on there, why not fill these in using ooey gooey spruey stuff? And I thought, well yeah, that kind of makes a lot of sense. Obviously the hot glue I'm using here is really cheap and quick and easy to do, but obviously yeah, I've got lots of sprues, so let's scrap this idea and make this with ooey gooey spruey stuff instead. So I took a few more sprue panels, same sort of thing. And yeah, obviously these still had nibbly knobbly bits sticking out underneath, so it was just a case of trimming them off like before and getting some more greaseproof paper, as I know the ooey gooey spruey stuff doesn't stick to that. And as I am going to be touching the goo, I'm going to put a glove on just to obviously protect my skin. And yeah, it's just a case of spooning it out, putting it in between obviously all the gaps in the sprue, and obviously this is where obviously I'm wearing the glove, because then I'm going to be touching it, pushing it, and basically just sort of manipulating it into all the gaps. The consistency of the goo is kind of like a very sort of soft plasticine, so it really does manipulate really well. It's easy to sort of just push around, and yeah, obviously I want to try and keep it fairly level, fairly flat, just so the underneath of this is, well, rests nicely on the table, because basically obviously this side that you can see will eventually be the underneath. So the idea is I push this nice and flat, so then when I turn it over, it is like a nice flat surface, but obviously all these panels are infilled with the ooey gooey spruey stuff. So apologies to the person who suggested this, as I can't remember who it was, and I can't remember which one of my videos you left your comment on. But if it was you, leave a comment down below to say it was you. So yeah, thanks a lot, much appreciated. As I say, I like using the hot glue gun to fill these, but yeah, it does make more sense filling them with the ooey gooey spruey stuff. And there we go. There's all 3 panels done. Now it's just a case of leaving these for a good 7-8 hours for the acetone to evaporate and then to return back to being in a hard state. So while that's happening, I've made a few of these other little moulds that I've got. These are basically these little silicone molds that I've filled with goo sprue and again left for about 7-8 hours, and this is how they come out. So there's quite a variety of sizes I've got, which makes some nice sort of dome shaped bits, and these would be good to go on the end of the, well, basically the pipes and the big sort of gas cylinder thingy that I'm going to be making in a minute. So to make flat panels and obviously the pipes, tubes and everything else that I will be making, it's just a case of getting the ooey gooey spruey stuff, putting it on a greaseproof bit of paper, although I like to use the greaseproof tin or tray, just because then I can pick it up, move it around. Yeah, put a bit of greaseproof paper over the top, get your rolling pin and simply roll it out. Obviously the rolling pin I've got is great because it's got these little bits on either end, so you can do a variety of heights. Obviously them blue bits you can see, I've got different coloured ones, and yeah, they are different heights. So these produce around, I think it's about 2-3 millimeters in thickness, but I can do obviously a lot thicker if I need to. And then I can just roll these up in pens, pencils, basically whatever it is sort of thickness I want to go for really. And again, it's a case of then leaving it for about 7 hours. So that's the one thing about these kind of builds, there is a lot of in-between time. So back to these have now been left for a good 7-8 hours. Well, I think basically I left them overnight, and then it's a case of putting them off. I did put a bit of glue in the corners just to keep these down on the greaseproof paper, but yeah, it hasn't come out too bad. Obviously it's come out a few little potholes here and there, but to be honest, in the kind of build that I'm doing, that's fine, as that just looks like the metal's kind of corroded and rusted away to leave like little potholes. So I mean, if you wanted to, you could obviously smooth this out by getting some more ooey gooey spruey stuff and filling in these holes and obviously just flattening it out. That is one good thing about the ooey gooey stuff, it really is a good filler. But as I say, I don't want to do that. I like the idea of these bits of metal having these little holes. So once making the gas sort of cylinder canister thingy, I'm going to use 2 of those round bits that I used in the silicone mould, and obviously this bit of flat panel that I've rolled out. And the great thing about these flat panels, or rounding panels in this case, is you can just cut them with scissors. Because they are sort of relatively thin and yeah, easy to cut. So I'm going to have a piece at the bottom and the top, and there's my little Lonely Orc man as scale. And yeah, obviously then just get some glue on this thing, glue it all together. So the other great use for the ooey gooey stuff is as a filler, basically. And that's exactly what I can do here. So as mentioned before, if you do get all these potholes all over the place and you obviously don't want them, then yeah, just get some filler, fill it in. Again, leave it a good sort of 6 hours or so, and then if you really wanted to, you could just come back then and sand it down. Now I have got a variety of bits and pieces that are sort of like ready for me to use. This is a case then of going on and gluing bits, well, where you think they seem appropriate really. So with this terrain, I was kind of going for like a gas refinery sort of thing. Hence the reason why I want to have a variety of pipes on it. And obviously I'm using some Gundam sprues as well here for the first time, as I think these look pretty cool because obviously they're round. So again, these could be sort of like used for carrying sort of gas, electrical cables, or anything like that really. So yeah, using them, and again, no real sort of pattern to this, just sort of making up as I go along. But obviously, main thing, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. As well as being able to roll out flat panels, you can obviously put imprints in the panels. That's exactly what I've done to this panel and made it look like a sort of a corrugated sheet. But in this case, I'm going to use it as part of a walkway. And there you go, good old Lonely Orc again, just for size comparison. So yeah, put a couple of edges on the side. And again, the good old Gundam sprues, they are perfect for making handrails. Because obviously they're nice and round. Plus also, they've got obviously all these little bits and pieces poking out on them. So you can kind of find a nice sort of length, cut it in half, and then use that as a handrail. Glue it all down, and well, job done. Instant walkway. So it's starting to take shape now, and I'm sort of pleased with how it's all looking. And yeah, it's just a case of sort of gluing bits here and there, just to sort of make it look more like it is kind of what it's meant to be. And obviously the great thing about making it in these small little panels is you can make them obviously all at once, or you can make them over a period of time. But I'm sort of making mine so that they are sort of interconnective. So I'm going to have the walkway sort of spanning one to the other. But the good thing about doing this is obviously you can have bits in between. You can move it around, so it's sort of a walkway that goes into a vat at the bottom perhaps. And yeah, so that main idea here is to try and make them so they do sort of slot together, but you can just move them around and slot them in other areas really. Yeah, so I'm really pleased with how this is coming along, and it's certainly a bit of fun to make. And so I've never really made sort of modular pieces before, so it's nice to sort of think about it in a way that it sort of works on its own, but it works together, and it works that you can move bits around and yeah, manipulate them wherever you want. And I say, yeah, it's definitely a fun build to do, and obviously a great use for all those sprues that you got lying around, rather than throwing them away or say having them sitting in your drawer for the next sort of 5 years. Yeah, get them out, chop them up, and make some terrain with them. Obviously I couldn't make something with sprues and not get my candle out and have a go at burning something, so that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm obviously making a railing, but I want it to go round this sort of curved bit. So yeah, good old flame, put it over, let it heat up for a little bit. Obviously try not to set it on fire, that does happen sometimes. And then yeah, heats up, bends, and then perfect, goes around corners. Obviously guys, I do this in a well ventilated area. If anything, the area is too well ventilated and sometimes I freeze, but obviously rather that than die from well, I don't know what kind of poisoning it is, but yeah, so well ventilated area, we're never setting things on fire guys. And the other great thing about sprues is obviously something that I've made lots of, and that's frameworks. Yeah, a lot of my builds do generally have some sort of frame inside, and then obviously I build around that. And obviously this is no exception. I'm going to make a little sort of raised area. Again, the thing I like about the Necromunda style sort of built-in terrain is it's multi-level, and I think that's really good, especially for obviously for gameplay. Having those different levels really works rather well. So I'm just making up a simple sort of rectangular box. But what I will do is once the box is fully made, I'm going to kind of cut it in half, just because I want it to sort of spread out over 2 of those base platforms that I've made. Again, that way when I push them together, it makes it look like it was one sort of platform. And the easiest way to cover these is to get on the sprue panels that I've made, and then basically glue the little box, glue it down onto the sprue panel, and then just cut round it. I say this stuff is so easy to cut. Generally I do it with scissors, but in this case obviously it was easier just to get a sharp blade and yeah, cut round it. For anyone that is new to my channel and doesn't know about the ooey gooey sprue stuff, basically all it is I get a jar of acetone, generally I half fill it, and then pour in all these nibbly knobbly bits that I'm cutting off. I chuck them in, as well as obviously just getting some sprues and just generally cutting them up. Put them in the jar of acetone, leave it for a good 7-8 hours, and then it obviously dissolves and turns into what I commonly call ooey gooey sprue stuff, which is great for all sorts. There are tons of videos on my channel that show me making the ooey gooey sprue stuff and obviously the uses that I can get out of it. So if you haven't seen them guys, go and give them a click. I believe there is a playlist called Turning Things with Sprues or Making Things with Sprues. So yeah, go and check that one out and you'll see an absolute ton of ideas. From small little builds to, well, basically I think the biggest thing I built was an orc stomper, solely out of sprues. If you are new here guys and you like what I'm doing, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, as I do produce videos every week. And well, sometimes 2 videos in a week. And now I am starting to do a lot more live streaming of me building things. So yeah, keep an eye out for those as well guys. So that's the build pretty mujust done now. Just want to add a few more sort of pipes on. Again, these are those things that I made earlier, wrapping basically the sprue panels around things. Yeah, basically you can wrap it around obviously whatever you want. And then leave it say 7 to 8 hours. I mean 7 to 8 hours is the sort of number that I always give. Just as this is a general rule of thumb. Seems to be when the things go back to being sort of firm. But I reckon 9 times out of 10 I make things and then just leave them overnight. As that way when you wake up in the morning they are generally done. So yeah, just use those here and there just to finish off this pit. And yeah, I'm liking the look and it is some sort of like refinery. Again, these are a few of those funny little bits that come off the Gundam sprues. They're a bit like those little tables you get in the pizza boxes. So yeah, I kind of thought they just look good on top of the round bits. And there we go, so that's it all primed. And yeah, again, I always say this, whenever you make anything, sometimes you think, what have I made? Because it looks like obviously bits of plastic still. But it's not until you get some paint on there that things start to look obviously a whole lot better. I'm going with a fairly simple paint job on this. And as you can see, I'm using some big brushes, so I'm going to be doing some dry brushing. And I've got some stencils that I'm going to kind of cut out as well. So dry brushing, obviously get a little bit of brown, and as the name implies, take off most of the paint so your brush, or whatever you're using, is fairly dry. And I'm using these obviously cheap makeup brushes, just because, well, 1, they're cheap, and 2, they work really well for this kind of sort of application. So I'm going all over. Again, it doesn't have to be too neat, too precise, and you kind of don't want it to sort of fully cover what you're doing. I say, as in this case, I really want a lot of the black to shine through, just so it looks like this piece is old, derelict, and yeah, it hasn't been used in ages, and well, it's yeah, had better days. Obviously, sometimes when I do the dry brushing, my brush does have a bit too much paint on, but hey, that doesn't matter. Again, this sort of look and feel of this terrain is fine. So yeah, basically I've gone over the whole piece with the brown, and then I do exactly the same process using a bit of silver. But this time I make sure the brush is nice and dry, as I really don't want too much silver on there. Literally just sort of catching all the edges, so it looks like parts of the metal, obviously, or whatever it is worn back to be able to see the metal, basically. Yeah, I had considered going over some of this and making it look like a rust bucket as well. But I kind of found when I did this effect and looked back at the whole thing, I kind of really liked it. So obviously you could go on and make it look rusty, but in this case I was kind of really happy with how it looked, so didn't want to go too over the top with it. And then to finish it off, some good old stencils. Again, nice and cheap and easy to do, because obviously I've just printed these off and I'm going to cut them out. You can buy a variety of stencils from, well, a variety of places, but to be honest, the fact that you can just cut them out from a bit of paper, and obviously you can have whatever you want, whatever size you want, yeah, it makes this obviously a much better idea, and it's fun as well. It's always good fun to make your own sort of bits and pieces. And then to apply the paint, I just use an old bit of sponge, get it obviously in the paint, and then just dab it. Rather than obviously painting it on, the dabbing looks better because it gives it more of an uneven, unnatural sort of look. And then when you pull the stencil off, it kind of looks like the paint's sort of like frayed or worn a little bit. And yeah, just a great little effect. So I did a couple of those, and then I did some little sort of like chevron sort of things. And obviously these were even easier to cut out because obviously a nice simple pattern. And again, same sort of thing, cut it out, get a sponge, and then dab on the paint. Such a simple idea, but the end result I think looks fantastic. Hi guys, so just had a quick break here before I show you the finished item. Just want to say a big thank you to all my patrons lined up down here. It obviously helped the channel out so much with their donations each month, meaning I can sort of continue to buy bits and pieces that I need to make these kind of videos. So yeah, thank you guys for all your help and support over the last, well, year now I guess I've been doing this, which is awesome. And obviously these guys here also get access to work in progress pictures of what I'm currently working on before it comes to YouTube, which is awesome. Also, I want to say a big thank you to all my my sponsors as well. That's Artiscapade, who send me lots of brushes, which I use and will be using a whole lot more now of to paint all my lovely little figures. I also want to say a big shout out to Easy Roller Dice, who have sent me loads and loads of awesome dice in the past, some of which are huge, and they're also just releasing, guys, the dice tray. So the dice tray with my ugly mug on, and obviously I love nibbly knobbly bits, is now available to buy from Easy Roller Dice. And I will leave a link in the description. There's also a code there if you want to get 15% off basically all their dice and everything they do. And they do a whole lot of dice and they're just awesome. But obviously this is the best thing I think they do. It's now my dice tray with my face on, and I love nibbly knobbly bits. So you can get that from there as well. And also I want to say a big thank you to Anycubic as well, for obviously all their help over the last few months, and obviously the lovely printers, 3D printers they've sent me, because I can now print off loads and loads of miniatures and bits and pieces to do with, well, to do with all sorts really, terrain and everything else. And one last big thank you to a company called Graphics Direct, who recently, well in fact today, sent me some cutting mats. If you've seen some of my previous videos, my cutting mats get worse and worse and worse. I even flip them over, use the back side of them, they get really manky, and yeah, I have to throw them. So Graphics Direct sent me loads of cutting mats, and so when I opened them up, it's like that fresh car smell. The smell on these is gorgeous. So obviously I've got some nice big mats. I've got another mat on my other side of my desk, and a whole variety of smaller mats that I can do some work on. They sent me some cutting blades as well, which is awesome. But I've also now got a ruler. And not just a ruler, if you guys have watched my channel for a while, you'll see I've kind of got a cutting ruler, but it's got no numbers on it, they've all just rubbed off. I think I've used this earlier, and this is a lovely edge to use for cutting. Because the other ruler I've got isn't really a cutting ruler, this one is. So, many thanks Graphics Direct. There's links to everything I use, guys, down in the description. So go show them some love, click on their links, have a look and see what they do. And obviously if you do buy anything from them, guys, awesome. And yeah, if you let them know that you've come from my channel and you've seen their website, their details, their products on here, that'll be great. Right, back to the video, and let's show you how this thing looks when it's all painted. Okay. I think it's come out really, really nice, and obviously it's so nice to be able to show it off on my new cutting mat from Graphics Direct. So cheers to them, guys. And yeah, as I say, this piece really is modular. You can sort of flip it around, move it. The bits do still sort of like interact with each other. I love the sort of the different heights in the bits and pieces, and yeah, I think you can have some great skirmishes even with these just few little bits. But I say, obviously the great thing about this is it is modular, and I reckon you can sort of make one more piece easily each week, and within a matter of a couple of months you would have loads of these, and you really would have quite a large and impressive setup. So guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Leave some comments down below, let me know what you think. Hit the thumbs up button, share the video wherever you can, guys, because that really helps me out so much. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Okay, that's it, guys. Take care. Bye for now.